Greetings, YouTube. I'm about to get really nerdy and talk about Superman and Krypton and Kryptonite. So if you're not into that particular thing or things, you don't want to watch this one. I found myself pondering pink Kryptonite recently, and we'll get to that in a minute. Then I began to think about the whole concept of Kryptonite itself. Now, I've touched on this in the past, and I've always had a problem with Kryptonite as a narrative tool. I understand what it is. It's a device that makes Superman vulnerable so he can be defeated. I get that. But if you think about Kryptonite for a moment, what it is, a fragment of a planet that is, according to the DC universe, 27 light years away. How did it get here? Now, Kal-El was put on a ship, and he fired towards Earth. And we can assume that one of two things. One, he was put into cryogenic stasis, and the ship got here at a very high rate of speed, but not superluminal. So we'll say it accelerates to light speed fairly quickly. Say it takes a year to get up to that speed, and then it buzzes for 26 light years, and then it decelerates for a light year slowly until it gets here. So say it takes a year last half light year or something to decelerate, and then it shows up here. So we're talking like takes it like 29 years to get here. He crash lands because apparently they can't figure out how to land a ship, but they can make it go really fast. And then we get the Superman story. Or is superluminal, and superluminal vessels, ships that are faster than light are as common as chips in science fiction and fantasy worlds like DC and Marvel. So the fact that the Earth doesn't have them is really absurd, particularly in Marvel, because the Avengers have encountered them so many times, and they're everywhere, and yet Earth doesn't seem to have them. Again, you start thinking logically about comic worlds, things fall apart very quickly, and that's what I'm about to do. But how did the Kryptonite get here? All right. Now remember, Krypton explodes. How a planet explodes, I don't know. Now, if you tell me that they've done something that destabilizes the mantle of the planet Krypton, so essentially all the tectonic plates just begin to crumple and they fold and they break, and so they essentially recycle themselves so that the surface world is, for the most part, wiped clean and there is nobody left on the surface, and then the planet cools and solidifies and they start life cycles all over again. Okay. And also, for some weird reason, the Kryptonians are not an interstellar species. They decided they didn't like that, and all their otherworld colonies just died out. Again, no sense. Why they didn't have orbital facilities, because they have the technology to have orbital facilities. They could have put all of their people in orbit around Krypton in O'Neill habitats and stood back and watched their planet do this, and then resettle it later or terraform it in a more rapid manner, because they do have super science. But again, no logic. So I'm not quite sure what they did that caused their planet to explode. But we're going to say it does explode. Now, it's going to explode. That's a kinetic event, which means there's no superluminal energy going on here. The objects are exploding kinetically. They're being flung away as a shotgun effect. And if you know anything about shotguns, it is that the pellets spread rapidly. But since this planet was not a focused blast, there was no choke on the planet Krypton aimed at Earth, all of the bits are going to fly in all directions evenly, roughly. Obviously, their shape will have an impact on that. And then have to travel 27 light years at relativistic speeds, which could take hundreds, thousands of years. So there would be no Kryptonite here at all, ever, within the DC timeline. Yeah, never made any sense to me. Still doesn't. But I understand the reason that it exists. I got that. Okay, so we know that the kryptonite probably shouldn't exist, but it does. But also, there are types of kryptonite. It is not just a type of kryptonite. There's the classic green kryptonite, of course. That's the stuff that makes him easily the most abundant and first discovered green variety of kryptonite sapped Kryptonians of their strength provided by a yellow sun. Yes, because remember, Kryptonians on Krypton didn't really have many metahuman powers other than being smart and having super science. But when they get here under a yellow sun, suddenly they do. I think they would have learned that because remember, they were an interstellar society at one time and they had off-world colonies in other systems. So why didn't they discover this earlier? And once they discovered it, why didn't they all emigrate to that system? Again, makes no sense. We have red kryptonite. I'm familiar with this one. Unexpected consequences, and what happened varies from exposure to exposure, turning into a dragon, excessive hair growth, gaining telepathy. Yeah. It was a role in the Gamma World mutation chart, kryptonite. Gold kryptonite, this rare form of the mineral, would destroy a Kryptonian's ability to process yellow sunlight, thus permanently removing their superpower. It was not the otherwise harmful to Kryptonian life. So it just turned them into a normal person. Blue kryptonite. Same effect green kryptonite does on a normal Kryptonian. It also has an antidote to the effects of red kryptonite. Interesting. White kryptonite kills all plant life regardless of origin. Platinum gives Kryptonian powers to humans permanently. I want some platinum kryptonite. Yes, I do. I could do more interesting things with a set of powers like Superman has than he does. I would not be the big blue Boy Scout. Kryptomites, living beings composed of various forms of kryptonite. Sorry, I have cat ears. Yellow kryptonite, as part of the hoax masterminded by Lex Luthor. It's not an actually kryptonite, but a harmless yellow sphere. He hoped that the Superman would think it was kryptonite and thus hold back. So yes, he was using it as a bargaining tool. Less that clever Lex Luthor. Black kryptonite. First seen in Smallville, the only time it was ever used, Clark was in the Fourth season, yada yada. Kent places a chunk of black kryptonite on his chest, and the two personalities physically split. Clark then used black kryptonite to eliminate Kal-El. Wow, that's weird. And we have artificial synthetic kryptonites. Article copyright Dr. Rebos. They some for the Green Lantern use some in their rings. Grodd used a type of kryptonite called artificial kryptonite. It was a cloud of kryptonite that masked the Earth, keeping Superman off planet and Grodd on as Earth's ruler. That's kind of cool. Another version of the faux kryptonite was developed by Gus Gorman in the movie Superman 3, where he substitutes the unknown element in green kryptonite with tar. The result as an exposure to the kryptonite was that it caused Superman's moral behaviors to change to the point of being evil and destructive both to himself and others. We have Earth 2, synthetic kryptonite was invented by Lex Luthor, an extremely rare and unattainable ingredient, including the mammoth pearl dust, all kind of stuff. A second formula, These forms of kryptonite had the same paralyzing effects on Superman as green kryptonite. The Luthor synthesis was quite powerful, but had a short life, so it was a poor man's version of kryptonite. Within the modern publishing, they had a host of other criminal-minded individuals got into the business of fabricating K-Rad emission emulations as well as carbon copy green kryptonite to ward off Superman. That's very strange. Now, I can understand there being an Earth-based research that develops a substance that maybe becomes going to kryptonite. Oddly, I don't know, because no one on Earth would know he's from Krypton. But the point being, I could see somebody coming up with a way of defeating Superman that was very rare and difficult to acquire. But again, having it show up here from another planet makes no sense. We have silver. Silver Kryptonite is part of a joke played on Jimmy to celebrate Superman's silver anniversary. It does not have any powers. It is just a prop. Also, it's another one is a form of kryptonite created by the Professor Milton Fine using ordinary rock and liquid metal that was made when Clark was picked up at the artificial gang. He began to use having paranoid delusions and became convinced that his friends and family were out to destroy him. It causes hallucinations in Superman. That could be really, really dangerous. Post-crisis, we have a variety of mystical properties that are a great value to the supernatural community. 2 known samples of this magic kryptonite have been forged in a pair of twin medallions known as the Ak Om Rache, the Amulet of Mindfulness. One half of the amulet was located inside a volcano. The twins are forged in the stone tablet found at the Oblivion Bar. It has an effect on him on kryptonites as cannabis on a human being. Thus those affected by experience a loss of inhibitions, altered perceptions, extreme hunger, cravings, and some psychotropic hallucinations. It gets him high. Then we have Supergirl series where kryptonite causes hallucinations again. Now we have pink kryptonite, which is probably the most problematic of all the kryptonites because when exposed to it, Kal-El becomes gay. Starts hitting on Jimmy Olsen, and for some strange reason has a deep and abiding interest in window treatments. This was written in 2003. Purple kryptonite. What appeared to be purple, but it was so apparently there was an original kryptonite that was purple, but it was just supposed to be the only form of kryptonite. So I guess there was between artists there was a confusion: what should be purple, should it be green? Kind of like the original Hulk was not green. Then we have Kryptonite X or Cryptocinium is rare kryptonite that the cyborg Superman blasted the Eradicator with when it passed through the latter and caused him to absorb solar energy at a rapidly accelerated rate, eventually causing his powers to go out of control and his body to build more mass. Superman was purged of it after battling the Parasite, not to be confused with X kryptonite. Okay, I will promise I will not confuse that. Then we have slow kryptonite. So apparently the rays out of kryptonite are high frequency. Well, slow kryptonite are low frequency kryptonite rays, which affect humans, but not Kryptonians. Yeah, okay. So I guess it's bad to humans. Then we have Kryptonite Plus. That must be like the new marketing campaign. Multicolored stones that were left behind by aliens who said that they were Kryptonite Plus or Ultra Kryptonite. They are actually Tychron stones. I don't know what a Tychron stone is, but I guess it's the DC version of Infinity Stones. We have Magno Kryptonite. Is a variation of kryptonite that tracks objects from Krypton and apparently affects people from Krypton as well, and not even the strength of Superman or Bizarre can escape. So it's a person magnet. We have Jewel Kryptonite, possesses the ability to amplify the psychic powers of people. In the Phantom Zone, Jewel Kryptonite was introduced in season 9 of Smallville, enabled Clark to make someone do whatever he asked of them, but the process worked only once on each person. He could even affect himself. That could be very intriguing. If you got the right ability, you could make some severe changes in people's personalities. The GOP would hate me. We have Anti-Kryptonite. Superpower Kryptonite has the same effect on normal green Kryptonite on non-powered Kryptonians. Thus the form, So yeah. So yes, dangerous, but in a different way. We have Bizarro Red Kryptonite. It very affects humans the same way that Red Kryptonite affects Kryptonians. So makes them have all kinds of weird mutations and freaky changes. That could be fun. We have X, which is a synthetic kryptonite that grants streaky superpowers. So I guess speed. We have Blood Kryptonite, from the 52, a religious sect dedicated to resurrecting Superboy, employed red kryptonite in the preliminary ritual to resurrect him. Blood variant, Force of the Force was present attendee. For the facts, it was later revealed that this was a manipulation of Felix Faust, and the rock was either regular green kryptonite or not kryptonite at all. So it was just a flim-flam. Purple spotted kryptonite, a fake kryptonite in the Superdog cartoon. This Friday made Kryptonians chase his tail. Made Krypto chase his tail. Dogs don't need kryptonite for that. We have fake kryptonite, and it's seen in Superboy. So I guess they're just selling them. So like charity, like have a stone that looks like kryptonite but really isn't. So you too can pretend you can kill Superman. We have Bizarro white kryptonite, known as episode of Superboy. In order to stop Bizarro's rampage, uses a rare green kryptonite through the same duplicate process that created Bizarro from his world piece. The Superboy surprise, the resulting mineral had the effect of healing Bizarro, curing the instability that threatened to make him violently explode. Isn't that handy? Then we have red-green, created by Brainiac, and that mutated Superman. They've already made him grow third eye on the back of his head. So it's just more mutations and stuff. Then we have Krypton Steel. It wouldn't be that Kryptonian Steel, or just Krypton? Okay, Krypton Steel. Super Friends Rest in Peace was described as Lex Luthor as a harmless form of kryptonite, the only Superman could break. It is presumably a refined metal with similar properties to the iron alloy steel. Superman forged a box made of this material to store a weapon that confiscated from the Legion of Doom to some point. They figured out how to trick Superboy to open the box for them. Well, of course they did, because that's what they do. We have Opal Kryptonite, synthetic version of that was created by Terrence Sloan on Earth 2, had an apparent life Kryptonians temporarily insane. That seems dangerous. We have Crimson Kryptonite. Post-crisis, effects of this is kryptonite could be everlasting until Lex Luthor confessed to Clark that the fifth dimensional elf gave him the rock without knowing Superman's alter ego. Unlike other kryptonite, that one was not radioactive. We have orange kryptonite. A chunk of orange kryptonite was in the possession of Lex Luthor. There's no description of what it does. Then we have Periwinkle kryptonite. He turned his skin purple and costume Periwinkle and caused him to briefly charm Lois Lane with charm and dance skills. Later that day, Lois created a piece of physical Periwinkle kryptonite presented Clark Kent and had a similar effect. You're Superman. And lastly, we have Amber Kryptonite, which is an iteration of Lois Lane had used an unheard of kryptonite form to transfer her world Superman's powers into herself before killing him. She would go on to take said piece of kryptonite and hand them out to like-minded anti-meta constituents who she would turn into an army to wage genocidal war on the supers. Except they would then become metahumans because they are now powered by okay, yeah, whatever. There's a reason I don't read comics anymore, by and large. They're very silly. So just pondering on kryptonite here, folks. I think it's absurd that it exists at all on Earth. It beggars belief even in the comic book universe, in my opinion. And the fact that there are so many varieties of it for a substance that actually should be incredibly rare is even stranger. The synthetic line kind of makes more sense to me, but once it becomes available, it's going to become really available, and then it's going to become very dangerous for Superman, now wouldn't it? So let's talk about kryptonite and Superman. And basically, are there aspects of things that we just kind of take for granted in comics that just get under your skin and bug you in a way that you just can't shake.